first we owe you an apology. We've been away longer than we wanted to be, and we appreciate every single one of you who stuck around and kept checking in. That means more than you know. Now, grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. And before this video ends, we have an important announcement for this community. You're going to want to stick around for that. Drop a comment. You're going to love it here. 77 years on this earth, and I thought I'd seen every flavor of stupid. Turns out, I hadn't tasted my own sons yet. Let me back up. My name is Elvis Sinclair. Not the Elvis, though I've been known to clear a room with my voice, too. Just not in the way that earns applause. I live in Coral Gables, Florida, in a 4-bedroom colonial on Humber Circle that I paid off in 1998 with money I earned building a construction supply business from a single pickup truck and a bad back. I am 77 years old. I drink my coffee black. I voted in 11 presidential elections, and I do not under any circumstances tolerate being made a fool of. My son Nelson Sinclair is 40 years old and lives 12 minutes away in a 3-bedroom Craftsman in Pinecrest, a house I own, incidentally, which will become relevant very shortly. Nelson is tall, handsome in the way that makes people trust him too quickly, and has the moral backbone of warm tapioca. His wife, Millie, is 34, a pediatric nurse with laugh lines and a kind soul, and she is the only person in this story who doesn't deserve what happened to her. She's also the only one who came out the other side better than she went in. Nelson and Millie had gone to the Bahamas for 10 days. Second anniversary trip. I was the one who gave them the travel vouchers, because I am apparently a generous fool. It was a Tuesday in late October, still 82 degrees in Miami, because Florida doesn't believe in autumn. I'd hired Rosa Torres, my housekeeper's cousin, a small Guatemalan woman with an iron constitution and exactly zero patience for nonsense, to go over to Nelson's house while they were gone. Clean the gutters, wipe down the baseboards, air the place out. I was doing my son a favor. I was always doing my son a favor. Rosa called me at 11:14 in the morning. I know because I was watching The Price is Right and someone had just overbid on a jet ski. Mr. Sinclair, her voice was a tight wire. There is someone in the attic. I muted the television. What do you mean someone? Crying. A girl, I think. It is not the television, sir. I checked. The television is off. I didn't say anything for a moment. My brain, still sharp, thank you very much, was already running the calculations. Nelson and Millie were in Nassau. The house was locked. No one had a key except me, Rosa, and Nelson himself. I didn't know it yet, but this was the moment the whole thing began to unravel. Don't open the attic, I said. I'm on my way. I drove those 12 minutes in 9. I will not confirm or deny that I ran a yellow light on Old Cutler Road. Rosa met me at the front door, her cleaning apron still on, holding a mop like a weapon. Good instincts. Upstairs, she whispered. The pull-down door. I can still hear her. I went up alone. I pulled the attic cord. The ladder unfolded with a tired groan. And before I'd even climbed 3 steps, I could smell it, a closed-in smell, like someone had been living up there. Candles, a sleeping bag, the papery scent of books. I climbed. She was sitting in the far corner under a battery-powered lantern, hugging her knees to her chest. A girl, young, maybe 19, maybe less, with dark hair and her mother's eyes. I didn't know whose mother yet, but I would. She had a half-eaten bag of pretzels next to her 3 library books, a phone charger snaking to an extension cord that ran through a small hole in the drywall, and the general composure of someone who'd been caught red-handed. What was already preparing her next lie. I looked at her. She looked at me. You must be Mr. Sinclair, she said, very calm, recalibrating fast. I am, I said, and you're in my attic. She exhaled and pressed her lips together, and then, right on cue, her eyes filled with tears. Beautiful tears, I'll give her that. Perfectly timed. I didn't know where else to go, she said. Her name, she told me, was Jade. She was 19. Nelson was her father. She'd only found out recently, she said, after her mother got sick, very sick. Stage 3 tumor. Brain. Surgery was the only option, and they didn't have insurance, and her mother had been so ashamed she'd reached out to Nelson and then just disappeared, left, and Jade had nowhere to go. So Nelson had said she could stay here just for a little while, just until they figured something out. And please, please don't be angry at him. He was just trying to help. It was a very good performance. The tears, the trembling chin, the way she looked down at her hands when she mentioned her mother, like grief was something she carried in her palms. I nodded slowly and said, "Well, let's get you out of this attic." I helped her downstairs. I asked Rosa to make some tea. I sat across from this girl at my son's kitchen table, and I listened to every single word she said, and I believed none of it, not a single syllable. Here's the thing about being 77. You've been lied to by professionals. I once had a contractor try to bill me for copper piping he replaced with PVC. I had a business partner in 1987 who embezzled $60,000 and cried at his own sentencing. I have been lied to by politicians, by 3 car salesmen, and once, memorably, by a Baptist minister who turned out to have a timeshare racket in Kissimmee. I know what a lie looks like. It looks exactly like a 19-year-old girl with pretty tears and a story she's rehearsed, just a hair too smoothly. But I smiled. I nodded. I said, "You poor thing," because the best way to catch a liar is to let them think they've already won. I drove home, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon at 2 in the afternoon. I earned it. And called my guy. His name is Gerald Fitch, retired Dade County detective, now private investigator, and the only man I know who charges by the hour and actually delivers by the hour. I've used him twice in 40 years. Once when I suspected a foreman of theft. Once when Nelson's first girlfriend told him she was pregnant and something felt off. I was right both times. "Gerald," I said, "I need you to find a woman, possibly named something with a Torres or a Vega, has a daughter named Jade, about 19, and is allegedly dying of a brain tumor in Florida." Allegedly. You heard me. Give me 48 hours, give me 36. He gave me 42. Good enough. Nelson called me that evening. He was still in Nassau, his voice slightly too casual, the way people sound when they've been rehearsing a call. "Hey, Dad, how's everything?" "Oh, fine," I said. "Quiet. You know how it is." Yeah. "Hey, listen, Rosa didn't go to the house today, did she? I meant to tell you you don't have to send her. I'll clean up when we get back." "She went this morning," I said pleasantly. "Found some dust. You know how Florida dust just accumulates." A pause. 3 full seconds, I counted. "Right," he said. "Yeah, okay. You all right, son? You sound a little tense." "No, I'm great. It's beautiful here. Hey, I'll call you when we land Thursday, okay?" "Looking forward to it," I said. I didn't know yet exactly what Gerald would find, but I had a feeling it would be spectacular. The I was on my back porch watching a heron stand motionless at the edge of my garden the way herons do. Patient, still, waiting. I respected that bird. "Okay," Gerald said. "So, there's no record of a terminal brain tumor patient matching the description you gave in any Miami-Dade, Broward, or Monroe County hospital system in the last 6 months. Surprise, surprise. But here's the thing, Elvis. The girl, Jade, her last name is Whitmore. Her mother is a woman named Diane Whitmore, 43, lives in Hialeah, and Diane Whitmore is not dying. She is, in fact, extremely alive. She posted a selfie at Bayside Marketplace 12 days ago and was tagged at a happy hour in Wynwood last Saturday. I closed my eyes. The heron didn't move. Is there any connection to my son? That's the part you're going to love, Gerald said. Nelson Sinclair and Diane Whitmore. They had a relationship about 20 years ago, 3, maybe 4 months. She got pregnant, he paid her off, signed something informal, no court involvement. Classic rich kid with a guilty conscience arrangement. She took the money and he took his freedom, and apparently neither one said a word until now. So, Jade is his biological daughter. I did some digging on Diane's financials. She's got debt, a lot of it, and in the last 3 months, she's made two withdrawals of $4,000 each from her savings account, almost everything she had. Then, 6 weeks later, Jade shows up in your son's attic with a sob story about cancer. Diane had sent her own daughter to shake down the man who'd written her a check and walked away 20 years ago. She'd coached that girl on every detail: the tears, the timing, the cancer. She'd turned her child into a con, and Jade, 19 years old and apparently willing, had walked right into that attic and waited. My blood didn't boil right then. It went very, very cold. "One more thing," Gerald said. I pulled Jade's record. She's 19, but she's got a prior petty theft in Broward, 2023. Charges were dropped, but the arrest is there. "Thank you, Gerald," I said. "Send me everything. You want me to do anything else?" "No," I said. "I've got it from here." I hung up and looked at the heron. It still hadn't moved. Patient, still, waiting. I understood completely. Nelson and Millie flew back Thursday evening. I know because I tracked their flight on my phone. Like a 77-year-old man who has learned reluctantly that technology is occasionally useful. I gave him 1 day. Let him get home, unpack, sleep in his own bed, feel the false comfort of his own walls. Friday morning, he called me. "Dad, hey, can I come by? I need to talk to you about something." "Of course," I said. "Come for lunch, I'll make sandwiches." He arrived at noon looking like a man carrying a couch up a spiral staircase. His jaw was tight. His eyes were doing that thing where they moved slightly too much, landing everywhere except directly on my face. I made him a turkey sandwich and set it in front of him and sat down with my own and took a bite and waited. He lasted about 45 seconds. "So," he said, "you met Jade." "I did," I said pleasantly. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It's complicated, Dad. She showed up and she needed help and I didn't know how to." He stopped, started again. "Her mom is sick, really sick. And Jade reached out to me through social media, and I know this is a lot, but she's my daughter, Dad. I think, we look alike, right? And I'm not asking you to accept this all at once. She needs help." I took another bite of my sandwich. It was a good sandwich. "What kind of help?" I asked. He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath since Nassau. "The surgery. It's $62,000. I know that's $62,000. I repeated, I know. But insurance won't cover it. And they need a payment plan started before they'll schedule the OR, and Dad, she's terminal without it. The tumor's aggressive, and they said, Nelson." He stopped. "Look at me." He did. "Finally. Are you asking me for $62,000? He swallowed. "I was going to ask for a loan, 30 maybe, if you could. I have some save I can get the rest from." "A loan," I said. "I'll pay it back. You know I'm good for it." "Do I?" I thought. "Do I, Nelson?" But I smiled. "Let me think about it," I said. "Give me a few days." The relief on his face was almost painful to witness. He reached across the table and gripped my arm. "Thank you, Dad. I mean it. I knew you'd understand." I nodded and refilled his lemonade, and inside my chest, something that had been warm toward him for 40 years quietly went out. I spent the weekend making preparations with the patience of a man who has absolutely nothing left to prove and all the time in the world. I called my attorney, Frank Diallo, on Saturday. Frank is 61, went to Georgetown, and has been handling my affairs for 18 years. He does not rattle easily. "Frank," I said, "I need to make some changes to my will. And I need to talk about the Pinecrest property. How significant are the changes?" "Nelson is coming out." A pause. "Out of the will entirely." "Entirely." He also knew professionally to keep his personal feelings in a separate drawer. "All right. Do you want a trust established for anyone else?" I want to make sure she's protected regardless of what happens with the marriage. She doesn't know it's coming yet, but it's coming. How quickly can you draft a notice? Legally, I need to give 30 days in Florida. Start the clock Monday. Can I ask what happened? My son tried to steal $62,000 from me using his illegitimate daughter in a fake cancer diagnosis. A very long pause. I'll have the paperwork ready Tuesday, he said. Monday morning, I drove to Pinecrest. Jade was still at the house. Nelson had apparently asked her to stay while he sorted things out. Sorted things out. As if $62,000 was a sock drawer. She answered the door in pajamas, eating a granola bar, and had the audacity to look pleased to see me. Mr. Sinclair, I was hoping we'd get a chance to really talk. Can I come in? She stepped aside. We sat in the living room, my living room, technically in my house, and she arranged herself on the couch with the practiced ease of someone who'd rehearsed this scene. Concerned, grateful, a little fragile. How are you holding up? I asked. It's hard, she said. I try not to think about my mom too much. The doctors say stress is bad for recovery. I said, which hospital is she at? A flicker. Tiny. A pianist hitting a wrong note. She's at Jackson. Jackson Memorial, neurology ward? Yes. What's her doctor's name? Another flicker. Longer this time. I'd have to check my phone. I don't have it memorized. Of course, I said kindly. What room is she in? I'd love to send flowers. The flicker became a fracture. Her eyes went sideways and her granola bar hand went still. And the whole performance, the whole carefully constructed thing cracked right down the middle. She started. Don't, I said quietly. No anger, just a door closing. Don't. I know about Hialeah. I know about Bayside Marketplace. I know about the happy hour in Wynwood. I know your mother isn't sick. I know about the prior arrest in Broward. And I know your mother coached you to come here because she thought my son's guilt was an ATM she hadn't finished emptying. The tears didn't come this time. Something more interesting came instead. A cold, calculating look that told me she was her mother's daughter in every way that mattered. You can't prove anything, she said, 19 years old, looking right at me. Jade, I said, standing slowly, I'm 77. I have been proving things since before your mother was born. Enjoy the house. You got until the 1st of November. I left her sitting there with her granola bar. She should have eaten faster. Tuesday afternoon, Frank messengered over the mortgage termination notice. I signed it and sent it back. Tuesday evening, I invited Millie to dinner. Just the two of us. Nelson was working late, or so he'd told her. I suspected he was meeting with Jade to strategize, which frankly I almost admired. Almost. Millie came in her scrubs, still tired from a 12-hour shift, carrying a bottle of Pinot Noir because she is a genuinely thoughtful person, and I genuinely hated what I was about to do to her day. I poured us both a glass, and I sat her down, and I said, Millie, I need to tell you some things, and I need you to know that I am telling you because I love you, and because you deserve the truth more than you deserve the comfortable version. Diane Whitmore, the arrangement 20 years ago, the money. Jade, the attic, the fake cancer, the $62,000 ask. I showed her Gerald's report. I showed her Diane's social media. The Bayside selfie, the Wynwood tag, the woman who was very much alive and had sent her teenage daughter to run a con on a man who didn't even have the decency to have properly wronged her. Millie didn't cry. That surprised me. She went very still, the way the heron goes still. And she listened to every word. And when I was done, she picked her wine glass back up and drank half of it in one go. How long have you known? She asked. 6 days. And Nelson, he asked you for money? 30,000 minimum, towards 62. She set the glass down again, precisely, like she was placing evidence. He told me we were getting his dad a gift. He asked me if we had 3,000 in the joint account. The room was very quiet. Millie, I need a minute, she said. Not angry, not weeping. Just I need a minute. She pressed her fingertips to her mouth and stared at the middle distance and processed the information the way competent people do, fully, unflinchingly, all the way to its conclusions. Then she looked at me. What are you going to do? I've already done most of it, I said. Frank is changing my will. Nelson is out. The mortgage termination notice goes to him Thursday. Jade is gone November 1st. I paused. I'm giving you a trust. Regardless of what you decide about the marriage, she shook her head. Elvis, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I said, I want to. You're the only person in this mess who didn't deserve any of it. She looked at me for a long moment, and her eyes went wet. Finally. But not the kind of wet that's weakness, the kind that's grief, real grief. For the marriage she thought she had, for the man she thought she knew, for the version of her life that had been running behind her back on a different track entirely. I want to be there, she said quietly, when you tell him. I considered that. Thursday, I said. Dinner. My house. She nodded, finished her wine, stood up straight. I didn't know it yet, but Millie was going to be just fine, more than fine. But Thursday was still 2 days away, and there was one more call to make. Wednesday morning, I called the Dade County Economic Crimes Unit. I'd gotten the right number from Gerald. I spoke to a detective, Anita Correa, who had the no-nonsense voice of a woman who'd heard every version of every story and was not interested in the decorative ones. I told her the situation. I sent her Gerald's full report. I offered to provide my own statement. The daughter is 19, she confirmed. Yes, as of March. So she's an adult at the time of the alleged fraud. Yes, she is. And the mother? You believe she directed the scheme from Hialeah? I have documented evidence that suggests exactly that. Detective Correa was quiet for a moment. Then, Mr. Sinclair, I want to be transparent with you. For a charge to stick, we'd need to establish that money actually changed hands as a result of the fraudulent claim. Did you give anyone money? Not a dollar. A pause. Did your son? I thought about that. I'm not certain. I know he asked me. I don't know if Jade received anything from him directly. Okay, she said. Here's what I can tell you. If Nelson Sinclair made payments to this girl based on the fraudulent claim, and if the girl made material misrepresentations to obtain those funds, that's wire fraud at minimum, possibly conspiracy. And the mother, if she directed it, is exposed too. She paused again. Do you have any reason to believe money did move from your son to the girl? I think, I said carefully, that if you look at Nelson Sinclair's personal account, which I am not at liberty to access, but which a subpoena certainly could, you might find some recent transfers. Detective Correa made a sound that was not quite a laugh. I'll be in touch, she said. She was in touch sooner than I expected. Thursday, dinner, my house on Alhambra Circle. I made steak and mashed potatoes because I am 77 years old, and I know that difficult conversations are easier when there's good food on the table. Don't ask me why. It just is. Nelson arrived at 6:30, soon his work clothes looking somewhat better than he had on Friday. He'd made a decision somewhere in the last week. I could see it in the set of his jaw. He decided to be confident, to own the narrative, to walk in here and make the ask properly, and charm his way through it the way he'd charmed his way through 40 years of being handsome and plausible. He walked into my dining room and found Millie already seated. He stopped. Hey, he said. Millie, I didn't know you were. Sit down, Nelson, I said. Something shifted behind his eyes. He sat. Something shifted behind his eyes. He sat. I let the silence sit for a moment, the way you let steak rest before you cut it. Then I set Gerald's report on the table, then Diane's social media printouts, then the formal mortgage termination notice, which Frank had made very crisp and official looking, because Frank understands presentation. Nelson looked at the papers. He didn't touch them. Dad, he said. His voice was careful, controlled. Let me explain. Diane Whitmore is not dying. I said, I know. Jade was sent here to run a con. I know that too. I know about the two $4,000 withdrawals from Diane's account. I know about the prior arrest. I know you asked Millie to pull 3,000 from the joint account. I know you asked me for 30, and I know. I slid one last piece of paper across, a bank statement Gerald had obtained through a source I didn't ask him to name, that you already transferred $8,000 to an account registered to J.D. Whitmore on October 19th. Nelson's face went gray. Nelson. Millie's voice was very quiet. 8,000. Millie, IU told me we were buying your dad a gift. I know. It's not what it looks like. The girl she needed nothing, I said, except an audience. And you gave her one. And you lied to your wife. And you tried to lie to me. Nelson's hands went flat on the table. She's my daughter, Dad. She is my daughter. That part's real. A DNA test would. Probably, I agreed. She's probably yours, which makes this worse, not better, because her mother turned her into a weapon and aimed her at you. And your response was to hide her in an attic and come to me with a fabricated medical emergency. The room was very quiet. The mortgage notice, I said, nodding toward the paper, is formal. You have 30 days. The property is mine. The will has been changed. Frank finalized it this morning. You are no longer a beneficiary. I paused. Millie is. Nelson's head snapped toward me. What? Whatever happens with your marriage, she'll be taken care of. That decision is made and it is not reversible. Dad, you can't. Nelson. I looked at my son, really looked at him the way you look at something you love and have lost simultaneously. I can. I built everything in this family. I supported you when your first business failed and your second. I bought the house you live in. I gave you the vacation that started this whole circus. And you tried to use me. You looked me in the face over a turkey sandwich and you tried to take $30,000 from me with a lie. I let that sit. I'm not angry. I'm done. There's a difference. Nelson looked at Millie. She was looking at her plate. Millie, he said, desperate now. Please, just let me explain. She said softly, I heard everything, Nelson. I've been sitting here since 6, using to your father explain my own marriage to me. She finally looked up. I called a lawyer this afternoon. I served mashed potatoes. It was very good. The consequences, when they came quickly and without mercy, which is exactly how consequences should come. Detective Correa called me the following Monday. They'd traced the $8,000. They'd spoken to Jade. Jade, it turned out, had not been entirely prepared for a detective with a subpoena and the relaxed certainty of someone who did this for a living. She lawyered up, but not before saying 3 or 4 things she shouldn't have, including confirming that her mother had, in her words, set up the whole thing and that she'd been just doing what she was told. Diane Whitmore was arrested on a Thursday. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The $8,000 was enough because it had crossed accounts in 2 different counties, which made it federal adjacent, which made it the kind of thing that prosecutors like to pick up and run with when they were bored with routine cases. Jade was arrested 3 days later, same charge as a co-conspirator. Her prior in Broward didn't help her. Her lawyer got her a plea arrangement. She would eventually serve 60 days in county and 3 years of probation, but the arrest record stood permanent, adult, real. I did not feel triumphant about that part. Jade was 19 and probably should have had a better mother, but she was also an adult who'd made adult decisions, and the world is not built to accommodate people who weaponize other people's guilt for profit. I felt something more like, this is how the ledger balances, sad but square. Millie filed for divorce in November. She was efficient about it, the way competent people are. She'd already moved her things out of the Pinecrest house before the 30-day notice expired. She took her scrubs, her Vitamix, her mother's china, and the Pinot Noir she brought to my dinner table and never finished. She left Nelson the good couch because she is, fundamentally, a kinder person than the situation required. Nelson lost the house December 1st. He moved into an apartment in Kendall that I know cost him more than he could comfortably afford, because Kendall was the compromise between his pride and his emptied savings account. He still called me twice in November. I answered both times. I was not unkind. I was not warm either. I was precisely what I am, a 77-year-old man who has made his peace with a disappointing chapter and turned the page. I heard through Frank, who has always had an excellent ear for these things, that Nelson tried to hire a lawyer to contest the will revision. The lawyer took a retainer and then called Frank, and then the retainer was returned because there was simply nothing to contest. The will was valid, the decisions were mine, the property was mine, all of it. Every brick and dollar and square foot was mine because I built it, and because the law on its better days rewards people who actually build things. It is January now, early. The mornings in Coral Gables are cool enough to drink coffee on the back porch without sweating through your shirt, and I have been doing exactly that. The heron is back. It stands at the edge of my garden every morning like a gray monk, patient, precise, entirely indifferent to anything that doesn't swim. Rosa Torres came back to clean last week. I gave her a holiday bonus and a bottle of the good rum because if she hadn't called me on that October Tuesday, this whole thing might have metastasized into something I couldn't surgically remove. She accepted both gifts with the brisk nod of a woman who doesn't need to be thanked more than once. Millie came by last weekend with takeout from a Cuban place on Miracle Mile that she knows I like. We ate at my kitchen table, and she told me about a new position she'd been offered, head of pediatric triage at Baptist Hospital. She was considering it. She looked rested. She looked genuinely better than I'd seen her look in 2 years. You know, she said, picking at her rice, I keep thinking I should be angrier. Are you not? I was. For about 3 weeks I was furious, and then I just got tired of it. And then I thought, what did I actually lose? She tilted her head. A house that wasn't mine, a marriage I was carrying alone, and a man who looked me in the face every day and kept a whole secret person in an attic. She paused. When you put it that way, I agreed. She smiled. It reached her eyes. Thank you, Elvis, for telling me the truth. You deserved it, I said. You always deserved it. She left around 8 to Hausard. I washed the dishes. I still wash my own dishes because I am 77, not dead. And I poured a small bourbon and went out to the back porch and stood in the Florida dark. My business is paid for. My house is paid for. My conscience is clean. My will is airtight. My heron, if it's the same one, and I believe it is somewhere out there in the night, standing perfectly still in the dark, waiting with enormous patience for something worth striking at. I understand that bird completely. 77 years old, still standing. Don't make me look in my attic. Before we go, we need to talk to you, not as content creators, not as storytellers, but just as people who genuinely value every single person in this community. Now, the important announcement, before we go, we need to talk to you, not as content creators, not as storytellers, but just as people who genuinely value every single person in this community. Our channel recently got demonetized, which means we've lost access to memberships and a lot of the perks we used to offer right here. It's been a tough season, not going to lie, but we're not going anywhere because of you. We've set up a Ko-fi page, that's K-O-F-I, pronounced just like coffee, and the link is in the description and on our bio. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can join our exclusive membership and get access to things like exclusive content and stories, direct messages with us, exclusive requests, discounts, and shop items we don't share anywhere else. Every single contribution, no matter the size, goes directly into keeping these stories alive. The research, the writing, the late nights making sure every twist hits just right. If this community has ever made you feel something, made you laugh, kept you up at night, or made a long commute fly by, this is your chance to be part of keeping it going. We'd be so grateful to have you with us over there. The link is in the description and on our bio. Come find us. The coffee's on you, the stories are on us. As always, thank you for being a part of this sphere.